Hey everyone, this is Precision of Language. Just want to remind everyone that this is just my opinion, and that everyone should form their own opinions through logic and study of the truth and facts. Now I just want to remind everyone that this video does include some pretty harsh video, so if you are queasy, go ahead and skip this one. Now before we get started, I want to point out the difference between a moral right and a legal right, and a moral wrong and a legal wrong. Just because something is morally wrong does not mean it is legally wrong, and therefore you cannot prosecute somebody for breaking a moral law just because you don't like it. It has to be a legal law to be able to be prosecuted in court. Now what we're talking about today is driving through those protesters who are creating roadblocks for their cause. Now, a lot of social justice warriors have been putting out that it's wrong to drive through them because it risks their life, and that the risk of taking somebody's life or hurting somebody isn't worth it, and so therefore it's assault, and that's what they would have you believe. I personally don't agree with this for a lot of reasons. Now, a lady named Jen Hayden, she wrote an article about an incident about this that happened in Missouri. And in the comments section under her article, she replied to somebody. She said, "Driving a vehicle into a group of human beings is assault. It's a matter of law." Now, in Missouri, there are 3 degrees of assault. A first-degree assault is the assault in the first degree is defined as attempting to kill someone or knowingly causing or attempting to cause serious physical injury to someone. So if the driver who plowed through the protesters or drove through, if their intent was to cause harm, then I would agree that's assault. But if their intent wasn't to cause harm and their intent was to escape, then it becomes a completely different matter. Right? Now, claiming self-defense is something that has to be done in court. So just because you think it's self-defense doesn't mean it is, but you can definitely argue for that. Now, the issue for this is, according to self-defense, you can only use deadly force if your attacker is also using deadly force. So then you have to define whether or not is driving through people deadly force, and are the attackers that are attacking your vehicle or you, are they using deadly force on you? Now, if trying to escape in your vehicle is not a form of deadly force, then you can very well use self-defense, no matter if the attackers are using deadly force or not. However, if it is deadly force, you cannot use deadly force against them. Now, some would claim that you could easily just leave your vehicle and escape that way, because escaping in your vehicle is a use of deadly force, and therefore you wouldn't be able to. Now, the only issue is that according to self-defense laws, you are not required to exit your property or your vehicle or a fenced area to escape. Let's take a couple looks at some examples so that I can show you what I mean. Now, in this first video, you're going to see a man, he's confronting a crowd, and it actually looks pretty dangerous, and he has an object thrown at him, and he gets back into his car, and then he drives into the crowd. Now, at this point, he has total right to just drive away, but instead he drives into the people. Now, this shows that he has intent to harm somebody, that his intent wasn't to escape or to get out of there. His entire intent was to cause bodily harm. And that's why this example is assault. Now, in our next example, it looks like a video from somewhere in the Middle East, but some teenagers have set up a roadblock, and I guess it's kind of a weekend thing where they set up tires and set them on fire and then throw rocks at cars who drive by. Now, the car, as soon as it sees this roadblock, continues driving on. And he hits a kid just there and keeps on driving. Now, the reason I don't believe that this is assault is that the car, I don't believe, was aiming for the kid, trying to hurt them. If it was, then that would be assault. However, it looks like they chose to drive through the center as much of a gap as there was. You could see that it was blocked, and the reason that they pressed the gas and they went is because that stopping put them in danger personally. And putting yourself in danger is never a good idea. Now, there's a problem with this next video that I'm going to show you, is that it starts out halfway through. So there's this Jeep driving through these protesters, and I believe it's in Arizona. And the problem is that we don't know what's happened before, so we can't tell at what point this goes from justified versus not. But at the opening sequence, you can see that people are jumping on the car and that they're crowded. And this, in my opinion, shows that they have the right to go because their vehicle is being assaulted. Now this is of the I-70 Missouri. This car starts to move forward and you can see it nudges and they're staying. Nobody's using deadly force yet. And they start crowding the car and trying to push up against it. Now, you can see right here that they start hitting the car. And that's where I believe that the force starts becoming more and more necessary to try to exit. That's why I believe that this case, that the driver did what they were supposed to. They didn't cause any harm, and they didn't use the force of the vehicle until they started attacking the vehicle. That brings into question what happens when protesters start threatening bodily harm or threatening to remove you from your vehicle. At that point, you should have the right to be able to just drive on through if you're being threatened with deadly force. And that's where this next video kind of takes a turn. Now you can see right here in the opening, a white truck drives by and yells out something, and then they yell back. Right there. Now you're going to see this truck a little bit later in the video.
We were invaded! We were not discovered! This is Indigenous Peoples Day, not Columbus Day!
So the protesters here have continually moved along, and here comes the white truck again. Now the problem is that we don't know if the white truck specifically has been following them, if it's antagonizing them, or that they are just returning back from their original trip. You can see as soon as it pulls up, people approach the truck. They're putting their heads in, they're talking to them. We can't hear what they're saying because we're too far away. But we can definitely see that there's a lot of tension going on. They're nowhere near the protesters, but everybody has come up and they've walked up to their car, their vehicle. And now the crowd comes up and starts banging on the hood. They're screaming. They're really surrounding the car, waving flags and signs in front of it. Now, you might think that this isn't threatening, that, oh, it's just signs, it's just people surrounding cars. But, and here it goes. They drive right through. He hits the gas, he stopped, and then he hits it all the way and just drives through. Now, that looks pretty awful. It looks like they just drove up, some people talked, maybe waved some signs. SJWs would have you believe that they were doing nothing wrong. There's no real harm to them. They weren't in danger. The problem is that you never really know when you're in danger. And that's a big case with a lot of things. If you look at the LA riots, people were driving up not knowing what was going on. They drove up and they were ripped from their cars and beat, and some killed. You don't know what's going on. If people are surrounding you and you feel threatened, that could be justification for self-preservation to the point of driving through people. And as a protester, you need to understand that if people are threatened, they will and have the right to escape. And that seems to be the case in this video. I did find another view of the guy who was actually next to the truck who was talking to him. Go ahead and watch that. So you hear him talking to him. And he starts... No, you can hear them. They're swearing at him. They're cursing at him. Talking about coming in that car and getting him. Are you kidding me? It's ridiculous. And then here it comes.
I'll tear you out of that car, you little fuck.
I'll tear you out of that car? Are you kidding me? threatening to take you up out of your car and F you up. That's really, yeah, that's threatening deadly force. You hit the gas, and he did the right thing at this point where he just hit the gas and he ran. That situation was getting worse and worse by the second. Now, I totally agree with protesting when done properly. And as a protester, you need to realize that when you put somebody at risk, they have a right, just as much as you have a right to protest, they have a right to protect themselves. And when you're threatening to pull somebody out of their vehicle and F them up, that is the point in which they have a right to use deadly force to leave the situation. It is up to you as an individual to decide if a situation that you are in is reasonable enough to use that force. Now, those who say that driving through still puts people too much at risk, at what cost does your self-preservation become morally wrong? Like I said, I'm all for protesting. You just got to be smart about it. And you have to realize that there are other people that are being put at risk as well. You can't say that your life is more important when you're sitting there standing in the middle of the road and other people are threatening the lives of other people and that their only way out is through you. It's a risk that they have to take, and you have to be aware of that people are willing to take that risk. And you need to be responsible for your own actions. Thanks for listening, guys. If you haven't hit that subscribe button already, go ahead, and I'll see you guys next week.